I want to talk about a story. Well, first, let me ask you a question. Can you get rich on a low income? And the answer is yes. But it's harder to do that because you're spending, let's say you make 2,000 a month. Maybe you got 500 car payment. Maybe your mortgage is 1,000. Maybe you spend 300 in food. Most people probably spend a lot more than that, and utilities another 300. It's just hard. It's hard to do. When housing, travel, like paying for a car, for example, college loans, consumer debt, credit cards. It's hard when this right here like eats a big chunk of your paycheck. But it's very possible. There was a guy by the name of Ronald Read. And I don't know everything about this guy. I know he was in the military. I don't know how long, maybe only for a couple years. I don't know. But he was a janitor. And he worked and also worked at a gas station. But he invested a little bit of money over a long period of time. And if you look at a compound interest calculator, it starts out slow. You almost don't even see it for the first, but then at some point it starts picking up momentum. And Charlie Munger, for example, had mentioned, the key to getting wealthy is get your hand on $100,000, because once you get $100,000, you start seeing it take off. But anyway, I'm going to go to just something I clicked on, and I was familiar with this story from before, but this guy who was a janitor and a gas station attendant, amassed $8 million. And most people thought he was homeless. Like he would go into the hospital and get a cup of coffee, and some people didn't even think he could pay for it. So they felt bad for him and pay for his meal. And little do they know that he was a multi-millionaire. But
the first time I walked into his house on Spruce Street, I was cleaning a spot off his table. Nothing but company annual reports and prospectuses. He had this phonograph, and I said, "Don't tell me that works." And he said, "Absolutely it works." So here he is, sitting there reading Barron's magazine with a stack of annual reports of companies that he wants to look at, listening to the Gettysburg Address. And I always say about Ronald, still waters run deep. his father used to cut a cord of wood a day for $1. That, and I'm sure some gardens, and they made a living.
He was brought up coming from humble beginnings. I worked together with Ron for 10 years, and I'll tell you what Ron was doing at that time was vacuuming. He did a lot of jobs like that. Did the floors, picked up the trash. Randomly, I would give him a call and say, well, what are you doing? How about breakfast? Well, he loved the hospital to come up here.
He always had a cup of coffee and an English muffin with peanut butter. That was it, and he always sat at the exact same stool, kind of at the counter.
If he weren't there, you'd worry about him, right? Okay, that's how much of a regular he was. And was very, very frugal. Oh, incredibly frugal. Yeah. Pretty sure that one of the reasons he came here was not just to see us, but because the coffee was pretty inexpensive.
He had this one story about when he went out for breakfast once. He was so touched. He was sitting there and some man went up to the counter and he paid for Ron's breakfast as well because he thought Ron would be able to afford it.
On the surface, he seems like this quiet person with marginal means, but we struck a chord right away on the investing world because he loved banks. I'm sure if he earned $50 in a week, he probably invested 40 of it.
Surprise gifts for a hospital and local library in Brattleboro from Ronald Read, a local man who died in June at the age of 92.
It is a very unique story.
It looks like right here this was some of the stocks, the bigger stocks he held, like Wells Fargo, Procter and Gamble, Colgate Palmolive, American Express, J.M. Smuckers, Johnson & Johnson, I don't even know what that one is, McCormick, Raytheon, United Technologies, and these are all familiar companies. At least I'm familiar with them a little bit. But yeah, I mean, he lived to be 92, a little bit of money over a long period of time.
We are the very lucky recipients of approximately $5 million from his estate.
We couldn't believe it. We were stunned. We just had no idea he was wealthy. The very fact that he could accumulate that kind of wealth by being careful and investing well is remarkable.
If he had the opportunities to go to college and make some choices after college, I think he'd probably be running, Goldman Sachs or, Morgan Stanley or something like that. It was something that it came to him naturally.
What's really important is his contribution, the dollars he's given to the hospital, just don't end up in a bank account. You have to recognize.
But, with this guy that it says a little bit more about him. I knew he was in the Army, so I'm not sure how long he served. But he worked as a gas station attendant and mechanic for 25 years. Took a part-time janitor job at JCPenney where he worked for 17 years. But this is just amazing. This guy that was a janitor can accumulate $8 million throughout his lifetime. And so, what's our excuse? Let's say you make earn 5 times more than what he made. I don't know what he was making back then. Maybe $5 an hour, maybe less, maybe $8 an hour. Probably back then it was even less than that. So I mean, for a large portion of his life, he might have made $5 an hour and turned that into 8 million. So no matter in this country, even if you are on the lowest rung of the ladder, if you are on a minimum wage worker, you still have a chance to accumulate massive amounts of wealth in a lifetime, as long as you spend less than you make and live frugally and I'm sure he wasn't going out to the bars every night and buying rounds of drinks for everybody, and I'm sure he wasn't driving around in the the fancy car and had the Rolex watches, and he just worked hard and saved money and invested, and it'd be nice to know what his savings rate was. Maybe he saved 80%. I don't know. The one guy said if he earned $50, he probably invested 40. So that is a incredible savings rate. But anyway, this is hope for people who may not make a lot of money and might think, well, I could never be a millionaire. I could never come up with $500,000. Well, this guy's living proof that you can do it. Thank you for watching.